Good evening. Sydney's Jewish community was dealt another painful blow today after a hateful anti-Semitic slur was spray-painted along the side of a car in the eastern suburbs.
The owner isn't Jewish, but many of his neighbours are, and now they're left fearing it's a sign of worse to come.
3 words causing so much pain.
This is how it starts.
An anti-Semitic slur was spray-painted on Stuart Veron's VW Golf, which was parked outside his Henry Street home in Queen's Park.
I'd say, you're a rat. You know, you can't be doing that around here.
He's not Jewish, but many of his neighbours are.
I'd be mortified, you know, so would I.
I heard it was racial slurs, but I didn't. I thought it would be anti-Israel. I didn't think it would be anti-Semitic like that. Jews.
Sharon Greenberg saw the vile spray early this morning and called police.
At first I felt like a bash to my head and then a bash to my heart.
It's the 3rd hate crime targeting Sydney's Jewish community since late last year. In Woollahra, cars and properties have been tagged and torched.
Terrible atrocities have occurred beginning this way with this type of slogan.
There is no tolerance for anti-Semitism in Australia.
Forensic police officers have examined the hatchback and have dusted for fingerprints. They believe it was vandalised between 7 a.m. yesterday and 6 o'clock this morning.
We must see a tightening of the law so that we can see the perpetrators of these acts identified
and brought to justice. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
We have sweltered through another Sydney summer scorcher today, with the mercury hitting 40 in our west. From the coast to the suburbs, people did what they could to beat the heat. A cool change is on the way.
In the building heat, building homes was tougher than usual today.
It's hot and it's first day back, but you got to do it, eh? You got to make the money.
At Quakers Hill, hitting the high 30s. Working outside meant shade any way you could.
Is he clammy or having cold sweats?
The ambulance service bracing for a busy day.
Just let her rest in the most comfortable position and wait for that help to arrive.
See about 3,300 000 calls. Things like dizziness or chest pain or shortness of breath. When the temperature does rise, we may see an increase in those types of calls.
The Rural Fire Service also on alert, tackling an out-of-control blaze burning in bushland northwest of Sydney.
What does it feel like?
Hot. Is it too hot?
Yeah.
For those who could.
Somewhere that we can keep the kids out of the sun occasionally.
It was a race to the water. Beaches crammed right along the coast, massive crowds at Manly, barely any spare room at Bondi.
Oh, very hot, yeah. So we looked on the forecast, we knew it was going to be warm.
At Penrith, making a splash at Bondi, grabbing a slide at Raging Waters.
You can come to a beautiful oasis like this at Lake Parramatta and you have a wonderful time.
Nice and cool, especially if you get food and drinks.
I was going to say, how important is the esky today?
Oh, it's very important, especially if you have kids. You need some fresh cold water for the kids.
As temperatures soared across the suburbs, hitting 40 at Badgerys Creek, over 39 at Penrith, Richmond, Camden, close to it at Quakers Hill, Horsley Park and Campbelltown.
After today's peak of the heat, there's a change on the way with some relief and very different looking days ahead.
We're likely to actually see temperatures drop below average. We might not see this heat return until we get into the weekend and even into early next week.
Paul Kadak, 7 News.
And with the very latest on the weather, Angie Asimus joins us now from Raging Waters at Prospect. Ange, when are you expecting that cool change?
Well, Mark, that cold front is making its way up the state's coastline right now, due to reach Sydney around 9 p.m. The top in the CBD today was 32 degrees, so somewhat saved by the sea breeze, although that is still 6 above average. Some storm cells have started developing in the outer west. That happened a couple of hours ago, and we will continue to see the potential for that right throughout the evening. Now, when those hot northerlies do swing around to the south tonight, temperatures are going to plummet. We're looking at tops 8 degrees cooler in the city tomorrow and up to 16 degrees cooler in our west. Until that, no doubt there will be plenty of scenes just like this around Sydney this evening. I will be back soon with your much cooler Tuesday outlook live from Raging Waters at Prospect.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Angie. In breaking news now, we have exclusive details on the extradition of a man who allegedly shot at police during a suspected botched underworld hit in our southwest. He's about to touch down in Sydney from Queensland, where he was trying to escape the country. Andrew Denny is at the airport.
Well, detectives are right now extraditing this man to Sydney to face charges of breaking into a home and opening fire on police during a high-speed pursuit. 20-year-old Paia Tuinua was arrested at Brisbane Airport, allegedly trying to leave the country. He fronted a Queensland court today where his extradition was granted. Police believe this was him trying to break into the home of an organised crime figure last week, fleeing, then suspected of shooting at police during a high-speed chase, hitting a dog squad officer's car. The driver was arrested at the scene in Barraville and weapons, including a military-style assault rifle, were found. But police allege Tuinua slipped the net and fled to Queensland.
In relation to the extradition, he's fine. He's looking forward to going back home and dealing with everything. But other than that, there's not really much more I can say.
Will he be fighting the charges in New South Wales?
Yes, at this stage, everything is contested.
Now, the 20-year-old will be taken from Sydney Airport here shortly to be charged, expected to front court tomorrow.
A teenage boy is seriously hurt after a train stunt went wrong at Blacktown. The 14-year-old suffered serious injuries to his arm and upper body when he fell from the train. He was taken to Westmead Children's Hospital and is still being treated. The incident caused delays of up to an hour for services on 3 lines running through Blacktown Station.
A police pursuit came to a crashing end in Sydney southwest this morning when a driver ploughed into several parked cars. It was one of many mistakes the 47-year-old made after allegedly refusing to stop for a breath test.
Burning down a Belfield Road, police close behind. The driver allegedly failed to stop and failed to see it was a no-through road. 30 seconds later, the Mercedes sedan slammed into 3 parked cars, putting an end to an early morning pursuit.
I've never seen so many police in my life in one spot.
I did hear him mutter, "I wasn't driving," although it was 2 in the morning. He was the only one present.
Police say they had tried to pull him over for a random breath test.
I'm pretty sure they tasered him. They got him down and cuffed, and he was gone soon after.
The 47-year-old was taken to Burwood Police Station and charged with police pursuit, while residents on Bruce Avenue were left with a big mess to clean up. The owners of this SUV were too devastated to speak, and it's clear why. But Stephen and Nikki are grateful that it was parked here last night, otherwise this pursuit may have ended in their bedroom.
Definitely happy it was the cars and not the house.
Bill Hogan, 7 News.
Passengers feared for their lives when an Etihad flight had to abort takeoff in Melbourne.
Pilots activated the emergency brakes while the jet was hurtling down the runway at more than 200 kilometres an hour.
Stopping 200 tonnes of aircraft quickly turned the Boeing's brakes white hot. 900 degrees at the wheels. In the cabin, stress levels were also rising.
Felt like we are about to die.
Tyres designed to deflate in extreme heat did so, leaving the plane stranded on the runway.
It was a little bit scary, but it just stopped us suddenly, so it was fine.
Etihad says pilots rejected the takeoff for technical reasons. Seconds from liftoff, around 200 k's an hour.
Aboard the arrival as well, due to the Etihad that's stuck on the runway. Apparently they've got some planes coming out.
Plane spotters couldn't believe their eyes or ears.
A screeching noise, and then I looked across and saw almost some sparks coming out of the undercarriage.
For the passengers, it's quite dramatic because as the brakes are applied, the suspension in the nose wheel takes up and it dives. It feels like the plane's going to go into an underground on the runway.
We didn't hear any bursts or explosions or anything like that. It was more just that you got thrown forward a little bit.
Eventually the plane's wheels were repaired. It was towed to a holding bay where it sits tonight. Some passengers were placed on other airlines. Some are waiting for the next available Etihad flight tomorrow.
Terrible, really. The service from Etihad is disgusting. No communication whatsoever. You can't get them on the phone.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
While many Australians may still be on holidays, the Prime Minister is back in work mode, starting unofficial election campaigning in Queensland.
There is fresh speculation tonight Anthony Albanese will call an early election for April 12.
On the road again with a band of ministers. Inspecting the completed Gympie bypass he funded 15 years ago as Transport Minister.
We had a wonderful minister and I think he wants that portfolio back.
I think he's pretty happy with his job that he's got now.
Trying to keep the top job, splashing an extra $7.2 billion for Queensland's Bruce Highway.
This will improve safety and will make an enormous difference.
We are backing the Bruce with billions. We are backing the Bruce with billions of dollars in new investment.
In a key state where Labor holds just 5 seats.
Queenslanders' lives matter.
Denying stealing a slogan from the outgoing US president.
Did you pinch that from President Joe Biden? We're not.
Despite Build Back Better appearing in today's press release.
It is building Australia's future.
3 words you can expect to hear a whole lot more, with some Labor insiders now believing the Prime Minister will go early, calling an election for Saturday, April 12. Avoiding a clash with WA's March 8 poll.
There's only one person in the country that knows when the next federal election is, and that's the Prime Minister.
The longer he leaves it, the more people are bleeding out there.
As new budget analysis predicts Australians' living standards won't recover until at least 2030.
There's no pathway back anytime soon.
Neither side of politics are offering any solutions.
Josh Martin, 7 News.
A man accused of raping a 21-year-old Australian flight attendant remains behind bars in Fiji, preparing to face the country's highest court. He plans to make a bid for freedom, but could face harsher penalties if he's convicted over the New Year's Day attack.
Cuffed and heading back into custody, this is the man accused of raping a 21-year-old Virgin Airlines flight attendant.
Is there anything you'd like to say? You're charged with rape and sexual assault. Anything you'd like to say?
Elisa Tunoa Denge arrived at the Nadi Magistrates Court this morning, filing into a courtroom alongside men accused of separate offences. Local police say the 24-year-old from Fiji's Coral Coast attacked the flight attendant after a night out in Nadi for New Year's Eve. 7 News understands he picked her up in an unregistered taxi after she'd been celebrating at this bar. On the same night, the young woman's male colleague was assaulted and robbed in a nearby street by a separate group still yet to be caught.
Apart from CCTV, there are other witnesses to it, and we are trying to gather those. And once we get a credible information who this particular person is, then probably we'll make an arrest.
Denge's alleged victim wasn't in court to hear the charges read out. It's believed she flew back home to Australia last week with family and Virgin Australia management. This case has made international headlines and gripped the local community. All major media outlets in Fiji have sent reporters to Nadi to cover this hearing. This afternoon, the alleged rapist was remanded in custody, loaded onto a truck and driven away.
And Estelle Greenpink is now live in Fiji. Estelle, it won't be long before the suspect is back in court.
In just a few weeks, Mark, the man's been told if he wants to apply for bail, he'll need to do so in the Fiji High Court. He's set to appear there on January 20. Now, this case is big news here in Nadi. Everyone we've spoken to today knows about it and is following it keenly. The man's been told if he is convicted, he could face up to 20 years behind bars. Mark?
Estelle, thank you. The Aussies have celebrated and now separated after their drought-breaking series win over India. Nursing a sore head, all-rounder Bo Webster reflected on his superb debut, while the Indians have started heading home with the Test future of Virat Kohli up in the air.
Leading the charge on the field and off it too.
Trav's always good. Me and him were going relatively hard on the beers there.
The pair having some fun with their celebrations on social media.
I'm a little bit rough this morning, as I think a few of the boys are, but no, it was a really good night.
After a really good day, Webster capping off a dream debut with the winning runs.
I certainly wasn't going to give Hetty the chance. I thought, you know, when there was 4 to win and 1 ball left, I said, I'm either getting out here or it's going to the boundary.
The Aussies returning home or to their home ports with a short stint in the BBL ahead of the Tour of Sri Lanka at the end of the month. But the presentation of the trophy has caused some controversy after Sonny Gavaskar wasn't invited onto the podium.
Perplexed is probably the right word. Perplexed because it's a Border Gavaskar trophy. I thought with AB also around that I would also be called to give the trophy.
The Indian team just as perplexed after being dominated after winning the first test in Perth.
What are you doing, brother?
Do you mind a couple questions?
Thank you. Have a good day.
After some awful on-field outbursts and a poor series, Virat Kohli's test career could be over.
He gets into form in the Championship, he scores loads of runs, then certainly you can, you'll think of having him in your squad.
This series had it all.
And the winner takes it all. Tom Wilson, 7 News.
Hollywood star Russell Crowe has tried to hose down reports he's selling his multi-million-dollar stake in the Rabbitohs. Rumours were flying that Crowe was ready to quit the club and was speaking with a US investor. He hasn't denied it outright, but took to social media and advised fans to enjoy the summer sun while it's there and ignore the trolls, adding that with new head coach Wayne Bennett, there's a fresh energy about the place. In 2006, Crowe paid $3 million for his share, which is now worth closer to $20 million, according to reports. A Japanese historic drama and a movie set in Mexico's drug trade have swept the Golden Globes on a tough night for the Aussies.
But our Hollywood stars still managed to shine, creating all sorts of mischief on the red carpet.
In the distant land of Hollywood,
Australia.
you can hear an Aussie a mile away.
7 News Australia, Kate. So
Hi.
put on your best Australian accent, doll.
Why are you making me do that?
Because I know how good you are at it.
Oh my God, he's so naughty.
Guy Pearce, Naomi Watts, Cate Blanchett and Nicole Kidman, all nominated in the TV and film categories. Nicole Kidman for her role in Baby Girl.
It was really confronting, but at the same time, I was grateful to have a role that was so complex.
Ultimately, the Aussies were unsuccessful. The biggest winners of the night, Jacques Gaudiard's Amelia Perez.
This is such an American experience.
And Shogun, each claiming 4 Globes. The Brutalist, 3, including Best Motion Picture Drama and Best Actor.
And I'm so grateful. I will cherish this moment forever. Thank you.
In the musical and comedy category,
Hacks.
Demi Moore taking home the first award of her career, winning in a category where she didn't seem to fit.
I'm fine.
Best Actress in a musical or comedy for her performance in The Substance.
I've been doing this a long time, like over 45 years, and this is the first time I've ever won anything.
It wouldn't be showbiz without a dark horse, and this year it's Pamela Anderson, nominated for her first Golden Globe in The Last Showgirl.
I never thought I would be here.
Missing out this time, but there's always the Oscars. In the United States, Isabel Mullen, 7 News.